Oh, sure. Yeah, I guess I'll go around and say who's here. Ken Brack.
Yeah. Thomas Vendetti.
John Bartlett.
Peter Cobb, Jim McKenna.
Dave McKee.
And is Craig not is absent today?
Right, they're on their way.
Okay, and Lynn.
And Lynn just joined us. So she's
Okay,
here now,
great.
too.
Lynn, you're on. Good. Okay, so Peter, one of my questions for you is, if they breach the dam, what effect will that have on the ironworks up there, the factory,
Well,
if any,
the dams were an integral part of the history of the old ironworks.
right?
I don't think it should be disturbed at all, because it's totally functional. At the bottom of that dike that they built there, at Sylvia Place, there's rusty water down there.
Yeah.
I saw that in the fifties, and it hasn't changed a bit. And it was talk that the dike was gonna fail, so they had to move it or whatever. What the rusty water down there isn't from leaching water from Sylvia Place, it's from bog ore,
Of course,
which is what they used to use to build cannonballs for Washington's army.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all I know is what I've watched all my life, and then when I get interested in pulling the deeds on it, that taught me a lot more about the history of it, which is a fascinating history.
how old are the dams? I mean, the big one that goes up to the fish ladder.
Up above the fish ladder
Yep.
that creates Sylvia Place.
Right.
'Cause there's two streams running into, it used to be a third. But neither of them was a very strong stream, but they figured you'd add them together and put a dike in there. Now you've got some volume of water, you can run water wheels. And then they dammed up the pond below it on Sylvia Place Road. And then they dammed up the pond below that, which was an old ironworks too. The wreck of the steel water wheels was still there when I was a kid
Oh, yeah,
in the fifties. Yeah, you can still see it.
and
I don't know, it destroys the whole ecology of it if you start getting rid of those dams. I know they're man-made, but they are part of the history of the town. And it was from viable, very early industries in this town. So all of that, I think, is important.
sure. Well, I don't know, are there any other questions?
I think part of the reason you're much better versed on the history.
It's
of
only what I've
things
seen
than I
with my
am.
own eyes mostly.
But I think part of the reason that they want to take the dam out, like a lot of dams, is for fish flow, to allow fish to go up naturally. But I think one of the other reasons is the safety of a dam if the dam breaches during flood rains or whatever, what's gonna happen downstream of the dams. I think that's one consideration of why they want to remove dams.
I think it's just an excuse. Some of us have been up there, some of you guys have been up there and seen it, and in the middle of this dike, there's 2.5 diameter pine trees growing up through it. With root systems and stuff, all of that stabilized. It's been there for all those years and hasn't changed a bit. So where they come up with a risk of that dam breaching, I don't know. And if they put a breach in it, I guess it'll be somewhere other than where the fish ladder exists. So then you can forget about the fish ladder. And if they just run the water back down there, I don't know how that's gonna turn out for the fish, but once the fish are gone, you've got to artificially reintroduce them to get them up there, so they'll breed and the spawn will go back to sea and they have a memory of where they came from. Maybe it could be started all over again.
I wonder if it would be appropriate for the CPC grant to restore the foundation of the old cannonball factory up there, because it really is, it has plants growing out of it, trees growing out of it that could be cut out. Some of it could be reestablished. Maybe a good historical sign could be put there. That's another thing which we really should think about in the future sometime.
The evidence of these industries is still there without
Yes.
touching it.
Oh, yes, but it would be awfully nice if it were just a little more intact. Because my wife and I go through it, and we often say, gee, the Boy Scouts should get in here and
I think,
cut out some of the stuff, you
I
know.
think it's the prettiest place in town.
Do you really?
That chain of pond, 1, 2, 3, 4 ponds ending up.
Oh, yeah.
at Russell's Pond. I think it's the most beautiful place in town.
Yeah.
I just hate to see it destroyed.
Yeah.
Because it's, ever
It is.
since it was created,
Yeah.
it hasn't failed.
Yeah.
The water still goes where they wanted it to go.
Right. And we're also aware that that there have been plenty of newspaper articles by your mother, and there was somebody else too. I can't remember her name right now. She was an artist in town who lived up there, a walking tour of the whole area.
Emily Marvin was another one. My mother was close.
Yeah.
She lived on Main Street on the right, just as you come down, a couple houses before you come down to
Right.
the stop sign.
Yeah.
I know she was in her 90s, and my mother was feeding her for,
Right.
historical recollections.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if it's even a money issue. I think if you just leave it alone.
Yeah. Have you contacted the name of this,
Wildlands Trust.
right, Wildland Trust? Have you been able to contact them at all about any of this?
Yes, I told you, I went.
Oh, I wasn't here. I just got in.
I went up to,
Yeah.
a couple of months ago. I found, they used to have an office on West Street in Duxbury. And the woman you mentioned the name, I think she's been there a long time. I think I talked to her years ago, when somebody tore out the fabrication I tried to put in to make the run work for the herring again. I asked, naturally, since there's a sign up there that they have jurisdiction for protecting it. And she knew nothing about it, but then I hadn't talked to any of them for a long time until, I don't know, 3 months ago.
I think you tried to get in touch with them when I spoke to you last. You said there was no answer on the phone or something like
Well, I
that.
drove up there twice. They were hard to find.
Yeah.
They were about 8 miles down in Long Pond Road from where you get off the highway. It's a long run. Even the exit that's way down, exit 3 or 2, they've changed the exits. I don't know what they are now. But even from there, it's about another 5 miles down to where it is. They have a big complex with like half a dozen buildings down there. So I went down and spoke to people a couple of times. And I kept getting passed along the chain there. So I thought I had found the right guy, because of his designation of his job is Director of Land Protection. That sounded like that was a reasonable person to be talking to. And I left him messages, and I gave you guys the phone number and his extension. But I never got a call back from him. So I don't know how interested they are and how much protection they do.
Tom, if this helps, just background, Peter had contacted me in about February about this. And I was able to reach Karen Gray, the president of Wildlands Trust, and that's in the minutes that are here before us, and I gave Peter a copy of it. It's a summary in there, but from that, because the pending federal funding, they're part of that mandates restoring or improving fish passage. Perhaps the commission could, and Karen offered to provide more and follow up, confirm when that date. They're waiting for a date this month, she said, in April, to know when the federal funding is going to arrive. Doesn't mean it's going to arrive now, but perhaps the commission could inquire about what exactly is in there. What does that mean for fish passage? I mean, you're raising a separate issue with the preservation of the historical structures, which we're all aware of and, have seen, or most of us have. But if that's, I mean, we could ask Wildlands Trust just to follow up if that's
At this point, I think
legitimate.
you'd
I
have
don't
to
know.
reintroduce another subspecies of heron. The original ones when I was a kid were alewives. They're a large heron. And after the state took out the resting pool and rebuilt the ladder on Elm Street by the town water department offices, the fish couldn't make it up anymore. So then they reintroduced, and Pine had a fish count deal down there. And I went down with my son a bunch of times and did it, entered the notebook, but she wouldn't validate that because I didn't belong to the right society. So I've kind of been fighting this battle for a lot of years.
I know, yeah. I'm not sure whether we have skin in the game, though, when it comes to any kind of conservation of wildlife.
No,
Do we?
just
No,
be
you don't.
informational
You don't.
inquiry.
I'm giving you the big
don't.
picture.
Yes,
There was something that was working and I subscribed, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And without money, everything's about money these days. You gotta get funding and stuff. If they just left things as they were, starting with Elm Street Run up to Furnace Brook, up and up and up. It was working perfectly. So they screwed it up. The state got involved with it. Stu had a lot to do with that. And I don't have a lot of influence with them. I go to town meeting because it's the only place in our democracy where you can actually get up and speak to the warrant articles. And I hate to see us lose that. And, you know, it's part of the old ways.
yeah.
Everywhere else, you really can't get hurt.
Well, what do you think?
So I understand you can't, it's not historical's job to reintroduce fish that have been lost and stuff. But I got talking to you guys about it because of the historical value of this area, just as it stands. And a lot of us have been up there and seen the evidence of the stoneworks and stuff where the water wheels were, a number of them. I thought that was worth preserving because of the history of it. Forget about the fish thing.
Well, you know, my wife is on the Conservation Commission and all I hear all the time is can't disturb the wetland, you can't disturb the wetland, you can't disturb the wetland. And it seems to me, and this is, I'm speaking personally, not as a member of this commission, seems to me like it would be disturbing a wetland, what they're going to do. And that may be a way for you forward in this, in your desire to keep things.
I don't know who to contact, if Southeast Mass Wildlife, who has got a sign up there saying that they're in charge of protecting that area. If I can't get them to, you know.
Well, the Conservation Commission are meeting right now upstairs. I don't know. They're you know, you may want to say they're disturbing wetland. I'm not trying to pass the buck either. We can weigh in.
I'm not looking for an excuse to come up with some idea that give validation of what I care about. It's just the history of the place. Leave it alone.
I know.
Get it on the National Historical Register.
Yeah.
It's the first millworks in the nation. Started by grants from the King of England, who were a colony. Let's go back a ways.
Well, certainly we can try to contact Wildland Trust then, and with that bit of knowledge that you're imparting to us, and
Most of what I'm talking about is validated in those deeds that I gave you.
Yeah.
It gives the whole chain of events starting in the 1600s of how the industries were there. And the deeds show what owner passed it to another owner, and a lot of the names of those owners are on the walls out here with their photographs. They're the old family names. So they might care about it if they're still around. If they're not, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know how much clout you have in preserving history of the town. I would assume that's kind of the mandate of this committee.
well, one thing that if somebody wishes to demolish a historic building, we can basically delay it.
Yeah.
We can delay it for, I think, 30 days or
Up
60
to a
days.
year, I believe.
Okay, so things can be delayed. I'm not sure whether that would apply to something like a dam.
Is it a historical landscape or something?
A
like that?
historical
Yeah.
landscape, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so we could try to investigate that and but remember, that would only be a delay.
And we
Because we have-
delayed
we have
destroying
no
the Maple
power.
Avenue School where I went to the first grade.
Yeah.
But that wasn't personal to me because that was an old building and it's really no use anymore. I didn't have any problem with that getting demoed. This is different.
I don't know. It is.
The 20-foot dam that they want to remove, is that part of, how old is that? Do you know? That dam does that go back to the
It's 1700s anyway.
1700s, the earthen dam is?
Well, that's where my mother's research article from the fifties says the location where the fish ladder is going up in the Sylvia Place. This is a shallow pond. You take the dike out, it'll drain the pond. It won't drain Russell's Pond because it's a ditch connecting the two ponds about this wide and about this deep. It was man-made just to get more water from different sources than reservoirs for the water wheel power. But I think the ironworks for Washington's Cannonballs was pretty much in the area of that fish ladder that I keep talking about. It goes up into Sylvia Place. And the bog, signs of the bog ore are still there.
Sure.
And
Yes,
that's
it
what
is.
they used in those days, because
Mhm.
they weren't doing mining like in Minnesota for iron.
Yeah, we hike down there and we see it all the time. And we knew it was bog iron.
I'm amazed that they could get enough volume out of that to make pots and pans and cannonballs and stuff, but I don't know, I haven't dug into that deeply, the science of how they did that.
Yeah.
It's fascinating that they could do it.
Yep.
Those people were clever in the early town here, what they did with industries. They
They
find a
certainly
way
were, you know,
without any of our modern technology, they just had stuff figured out.
they worked hard too.
Sure.
Very hard.
Sure, they hand dug, all this stuff was probably oxen carts and earth and hand dug and the ditches hand dug and everything, and then they rerouted it, did a ditch that used to be there and rerouted it to the one that's there now.
All right, well, thank you for presenting this. I'm sorry I wasn't here a little bit earlier.
In the fifties, there used to be an old building that was falling down on Sylvia Place on the southerly or southeasterly side of it, from the fish ladder going to the left and around. And one of the last things they did was they, before refrigeration, they were cutting ice there and storing it stacked with sawdust in between it so it didn't freeze together. And that was the ice house there.
Mhm.
That was still there and falling down when I was a kid in
Yeah.
the fifties. But there's still a indentation into the hill there
Yeah.
where that was.
Yeah. It's private property, I think. I've tried to go in there and peek, but it's all signage, you know.
Well, the Weston family used to have a house there. They had a daughter that was in my class in high school. And they owned Mayflower Mills up on Wapping Road. Because there were the two mills, Barnes Woodson on Elm Street, and then the other, that one up there. And I guess, you know, as generations change, people liquidate inheritances and assets, and it's, you know, it's nothing unusual about that. But they own quite a bit of property there, and they own the access to the swimming pool that we all used as teenagers. And didn't keep anybody out. There was an area you could actually park with a car and go in there to the rope swings and stuff.
Right.
But there was another antique house on the hill there in the middle of that too, that I think is long gone too.
Right.
Probably the foundation evidence is still there.
Yeah.
But I know they owned a lot of that property there, and I know it's been sold and different people control it now. But I don't know how that affects the history of it. If you can destroy history just by changing ownership of property.
Yeah. Oh, one thing, I don't know if everybody here knows, but Peter's mother wrote a history of Mayflower Church, which is a considerable piece of work that she did. And many articles in newspapers of historic.
1828, I'm on the board of trustees there.
Yeah.
Well, we met there one day, 2 months back.
Yeah.
Well, I got 3-4 generations in that church, not back to 1828, but not far away from it, so. I care about the history of this town. That's what my soapbox says.
Yeah.
And once these things are gone, and if it's not on a register someplace, it's valuable stuff to preserve, it's gone.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that this town still has a population of 13,000. It's like everybody went over this and went to Houston and San Francisco and Florida and everywhere else. But this little town still, was 2,000 population when I was a kid, but 13,000 is small. So a lot a lot has changed. There's traffic lights now. That started around 1960.
It's very little buildable land now. It's getting to the point where they're gonna have to have high rises if they
Well,
want
look
more
at the
people.
condos going up all around Plymouth, Kingston, everywhere.
Yeah.
Allegedly affordable housing, 40B. That's a fallacy too. That started in the 60s. I'm a builder, so I'm aware of some of the building laws. But that's never really worked out. You build $1 million houses and 20% of them have to be a little bit cheaper. A starter family looking for a house isn't gonna be able to buy an $800,000 house. So that's never really worked either, but that's another tangent.
Well, thanks for giving us your input on that, and we'll try to figure out a way to communicate the historic concerns. We at least could do that.
I was hoping you people might have a little more credibility than I, as an individual, that people would listen to you, because you're historical.
We hope so. History for many people doesn't go very far.
I know. But this doesn't need funding. It doesn't need a federal grant. Just leave it alone and get it documented.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
all I was looking for.
Yeah.
Everybody else, it's all about money. There's a business in town that makes their living off of getting grants and doing things like this. So we won't go into that.
That property was owned by Stewart, it wasn't it?
Oswald Wellington Stewart.
And I wonder if when he left that to the trust, if he had anything, if there's any language in his transfer of that property to the trust, as far as what can be disturbed, what can be done.
I don't know how much he owned up in there, because his name doesn't appear on any of those deeds, and my mother knew him well. We used to go visit with him. I knew him as a kid when he grew his blueberries down there, and he had a dirt road that went in there by the diesel pump station over to South Street, which has been blocked off since. So it's the first place I ever went trout fishing, was in the 5-step ladder outlet of the lower pond, where I saw the
Yeah.
remembrance of the steel from a big steel water wheel there when I was a kid. It was just sitting there rusting. It says in there that a lot of that was salvaged for steel, but they left some of it behind.
Yeah.
I got, my short-term memory is not very good at 76, but stuff from the 50s, I got it. I remember that in detail.
You gotta write it down,
Well, it's documented in those deeds.
but you have your own memories.
Yeah, but that's personal, but the deeds really tell the story.
Yeah.
And the fact that those people, private enterprises, were putting in fish ladders in 1700. Which I find ironic, because there was no dam to Silver Lake, and the fish, I'm sure, wanted to go up there. But 200 years before 1905, when the state gave the water rights to Silver Lake and they put the dam in, the herring are already going up to this area we're talking about. I don't know what to make of that, but I find it fascinating. All right, I guess that's it for me, huh?
Thanks a lot.
I can hit the road.
Yeah,
I gotta go home and cook something for my injured wife.
Well, she's done it for you for a long time, I'm sure, so.
Wow. I don't mind cooking, and
Yeah.
I've been doing the food shopping for the last 10 years anyway, because I like doing it.
Yeah.
I got a lot of irons in the fire. I spend a lot of time, I put more work hours out at my church for free than I do anywhere else. They're in Habitat for Humanity. So I'm not trying to get rich, but this stuff from my history that I care about and the history of this town.
well, I'm hoping that the Mayflower will be working with the Kingston 300 too, because the church histories in town are very,
1828, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When that was founded.
yeah, but they have a lot to say, and I'm hoping that the ministers will all get together and open up their doors and have people come in and find out about what the history of these churches are.
Well, thanks for putting up with me.
Yeah.
I didn't know how much clout you guys had as historical for this kind of stuff. It's the fact that it is so historical.
Well, we
I
can be a
didn't- I didn't-
megaphone, but I think that may be just about all we have, you know? If you know what I mean, legally anyway.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's who you know in this life. they had a senator or something that really cared about it, a senator from Kingston in the state
Yeah, I
legislature,
know.
maybe you'd get the big dig done.
True. I only know.
That's the reality of the world we live in, isn't it?
It is. It is, yeah. Unfortunately, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, guys.
See ya.
All right, Peter.
Thanks for
Bye,
coming
Pete.
in.
See ya.
Any progress with this? Somebody let me know. It would be gratifying that it was moving somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks again.
Right.
Good luck, guys.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
There's a vacancy. Maybe I'll join this committee. I've been on a committee since I was an elected sewer commissioner for 15 years. So I've kind of decided I kind of had enough of that stuff.
You know a lot of
You'd
town
be-
history. Yeah,
You'd be good in here.
yeah, you would be.
Throw
Yeah.
your hat in,
Oh, I
so to
have a
speak.
burning interest in the history of this town.
That's
And
important.
that's the first thing you need to get on this committee.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
See
All
ya.
right,
Thank you.
Bye,
thanks.
Pete.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, Jim. Are you good? Good. Thought I was gonna be late.
No.
Hit a ton of traffic.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going
I was
on.
actually going to ask, was I late or did you just start early a little bit?
No, we actually started right on time, but you
But no, he-
you
Peter
came in
was-
right as we started.
People were here
Oh.
and talking when I came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was chatting before the meeting.
But the meeting hadn't opened up
Yeah.
officially. He was just
Right.
venting a little bit.
Gotcha. I can't obviously see because I'm not there, but is there sort of, I guess, merit around that? I mean, is it something that we should look into in terms of, contacting Mass Historical? I have to say I'm not familiar. I haven't really walked around out back
That's
there.
actually, Lynn, that's actually all been done, and we actually had Dr. Zimmerman from Bridgewater State University come out and do a historical survey there. And he did determine that all the buildings are safe as per their construction design. So I don't know if we really have, if we've committed our due diligence or if there's any more we can really do.
Did I understand it? Like I was trying to, is he concerned about removing the dam and then it's gonna change the ponds? And so it's the
It
landscape,
seems
not,
more that that dam itself, he thinks is historical, which if it was built 300 years ago, I get that.
yeah. So it is the physical dam itself, not by removing the dam, it's gonna drain the ponds and change the landscape. Like I wasn't sure what he was.
I think
Where his
it
concern
sounds
is.
like it's both.
I think it's
Yeah.
both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Like I said,
So is it just a case of it doesn't meet the requirements for historical significance? Because like I know they protect landscapes.
So, yeah, Mass Historical wanted, that survey done, and Dr. Zimmerman said everything on that, sketches that they have to do the work is permissible in that. So I don't know, again, if there's anything we can really fight, if we've met their criteria.
Maybe we could communicate that to Peter, what you just said.
Okay,
I wasn't aware of of that nuance, but you are. And
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking not from an engineering standpoint, but from a historical significance standpoint.
I still
Well,
think the
John,
area. Good.
just to clarify, are you referring to the survey that the field school that he did,
yes.
coming on 2 summers ago?
Yeah.
I believe that was,
Was that
In the
just private or did
constr-
Mass Historical require that?
that was through the process, because this is a state
Yeah,
dam breach official, whatever that authority is, it's a breach safety issue, and Peter disagrees with that, but I think, the engineers are engineers. But that survey that Dr. Zimmerman did, Bridgewater State Field School, was in the construction easement, an archaeological survey to make sure there was no significant artifacts or pre-contact,
Yeah.
as well as, and he inventoried the known mill sites that we're
known,
talking about in the ice house.
foundations, yes.
Yeah, but I think primarily the main takeaway from that survey was that there was no big finds of archaeological significance. So they weren't gonna be digging up stuff that,
Right.
Native Americans,
Right.
et cetera,
Yep.
will be worried about. So I'm not sure if that's exactly the same. I mean, that's
Well,
the bottom line.
I know he
came
did
out
the
of that,
survey of the foundations and felt that
that they
they didn't need to be touched and that they were within a safe distance.
and that was part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so
Yeah.
when they did the work, they wouldn't be subsequently indirectly damaging those in some
Yes,
way.
and then he wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that the large
Yeah.
machinery
That's
going
right.
in and out wouldn't affect
Yeah.
anything there, which they didn't
Right.
find
Yeah.
much.
The road where the machinery would go in and out is really not far away from, but far
I
enough
remember
away, it's
seeing
not
those
gonna cause any
drawings.
problem.
Yeah.
So I remember he even walked across, Elm Street and the other side by the water department and we're looking for foundations. So he surveyed the whole area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we walked with him another time.
Yep.
Yeah. Um,
His
Yeah.
concern is the landscape. He wants it to be as close to the way it was, the landscape of it. So you can look at the, well, the water went down this way and there was a wheel over here and it moved this wheel, but the wheel is gone and that's, I understand him, but I don't think.
I
Don't
get
make-
it. Yeah, I
It's
get that
beyond
too, but
us.
then you also get
So I
into,
guess that's what I was wondering is, is it, are we looking at a memory or is it, something there that legitimately, people walk by and say, oh, that's the this, and they wouldn't be able to do that anymore. And it sounds like you're saying, no, not really.
when you get into the historic landscape, it brings up the question, like, what date are you targeting? I mean, as opposed to like the construction of a building or something, it's very discreet. But that landscape has been altered for thousands of years. Native American populations were altering that landscape, and how do you then, at least my understanding, like when I worked for the Park Service, we talked a lot about that, is what do you target for maintaining historical landscapes? What era are you? Because you could argue it was historic before they built those dams. And
Yeah, that could get dangerous. I could be like,
exactly, yeah,
Cumberland Farms new building, obstructed my landscape.
yeah. It's, I don't know, it gets very tricky.
Yeah, it does. So maybe if you could write down what you mentioned, if we can communicate that, we'll bring it to our next meeting. And then if we agree, we can communicate it to Pete, and I still think the foundation, pull out some of, there's also logs in there and everything, pull it out. Make it look more like a foundation. And actually a sign could be put there of some kind that identifies it as a landmark and write something up,
and you mentioned going to CPC to see if there, could be some grant to help restore that and
To clean
sign
it
it
out.
or whatever.
Maybe
Show-
reset some of the stones.
Yeah.
And
And Wildlands Trust is okay with people coming down there?
oh, we would have to have the permission, I imagine.
Yeah.
But I don't think in any way it would affect their mission. This is
Yeah.
really just a corner
Yeah,
of it, right near the road.
yeah. Okay, so it's not gonna
Right, it's-
attract a lot of.
No, it won't at all. It really is, it must be about 50 feet from the road or
If
so.
that,
If
yeah.
that,
Yeah, it's
right.
close. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
real close. And you can see it from the road. You walk by, you can see it.
Yeah.
It's on the corner, which is where it was. It was on the
Yeah.
corner because that's where the wagons would come in and ship out whatever they were doing.
There could be not a kiosk maybe, but some signage there to show where the mill locations in the whole area and
Yeah,
what they call it, the furnace group was across the street in the lower pond, Soul Pond, is that it? As you're going down the old Woods Road
That's right.
to the water wells. Yeah, I mean, all of those ponds and the mill networks through the ingenuity that Peter was talking about. That could be a nice little project and maybe a display. I bet Wildlands Trust wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah, I don't think they would. I mean, it's
Clean up at least that one.
it would clean it up.
area.
It would
Yeah.
clean up because really it's a junk pile now, the way it looks. And also
so
with
it's
a
just like you said, 50, is it off of Sylvia Place Road or off of Elm Street?
you go to Elm Street, then you
Yeah,
take a left on Sylvia Place,
Yeah.
and then you just go up a few hundred
Yeah,
feet.
it's
And when you turn on, there's a pond on your right.
Yeah.
As soon as the pond ends, there's a
It's
small
right
parking
there.
area. It's
Yeah.
right there.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's a small parking area, and
Yes.
it's getting lower and
cars,
lower
that's
and
nice.
lower. I asked Kalina, I said, why don't they fix this? She said, they don't wanna fix it.
Yeah.
They don't want, they want people to walk
You
in.
don't wanna park your Corvette in there.
You gotta park
Yeah,
somewhere.
where-
Yeah, I mean, it really drops off now.
It does, yeah. Yeah, we go up there, and hike a little bit. It's very, very beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So, walk around Russell Pond, and not even sure.
So what's next on the agenda?
We might want to get back to just, from the beginning. Minutes,
Approving the minutes.
and I apologize, there's a couple typos in there, which I saw later, so bear with me.
And I looked over them and I thought this would happen at the last meeting. I don't know. Do you think?
Well, I make a motion that we accept the minutes as read with the correction of those typos, which I didn't notice, but I'm not the best at spelling. So,
Not either.
Thanks, John.
No, I was an English teacher. And I'll second that motion. Does it look good for everybody?
The minutes?
Ken, good to you?
I don't even see the typo, but when I read these earlier, I thought I did see a typo. I don't see it now, so.
So, all those, so it was seconded, all those in favor of accepting?
I,
right,
I don't think we have any bills, or mail. That would be Craig would have those. Are there any that anybody knows of? Moving on to the, ZBA request for review. I could not understand what Craig sent me at all. They were maps and I didn't know exactly what I was
I'm glad you
evaluating.
said that, because I was just gonna pull it back up.
Yeah.
from what I could tell, it was just work on the properties and it wasn't tear downs or anything like that. I didn't see anything historical. I don't know
Yeah.
if anyone else noticed anything.
no, I looked up both properties and, I think it'd really be a stretch to try and find anything that would come under our purview. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, like the first one was, it looked like it was just landscape.
One was just a
It was
driveway.
changing the
Exactly.
driveway, right?
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so, I don't think we have to make any, motion of any kind for that. We just will bypass that. Historic houses, walking tour update. Do you have any information on that, Ken?
No,
Okay, well, I'll tell you, I was at a meeting.
Yeah.
Of that, and that is, underway, and, Jan Guidaboni, who is a, Kingston historian, is an expert on housing, houses and, ownership and so on and so forth. So she is going to be, kind of like the proofreader of this. And hopefully there will be a walking tour document of some kind. Fortunately, this committee, about 3 years ago, started to put together a walking tour again. And Ben Tambashi and I worked on it for quite a while. And we figured out some alternate tour paths to walk upon. Unfortunately, it's very difficult because of crossing the streets. And the traffic is heavy in town and it goes fast. And a lot of the people who would be interested in this kind of thing may have a difficult time getting across. And also in some places, there aren't crosswalks. So I think by and large, they're going to use the same path that was used before in the old walking tour. So it's being worked on. That's all I know. That's the report on that.
Just, do you know the length, like how long it will be?
Oh, gee whiz. Well, I can give you an idea. If you can imagine the town,
Yeah,
it would start at the Beal House parking lot,
Yeah.
which is the best place because people can get, you can't park on any
Yeah.
streets.
Yeah.
So that it starts there, cross the street at the crosswalk to First Parish Church. Okay. Take a right and then go down Green Street, go by the old town house
Mhm.
and the historical homes down there. Cross over Route 3A when you get by the World War I Memorial. There is a crosswalk there. And or you don't cross there, you simply take a right before the crosswalk and you would walk down and you would view the homes on the opposite side of the street, across the street, and just walk down there to the point, and then take a right, walk back up. And that's the kind of place. Now there is possible that we may be able to actually go up all the way up to the lights where the Early Bird restaurant is. There's a crosswalk there, and then come back down Main Street that way. They're thinking of doing it maybe in two alternate routes, one a long route for people who want to walk far, and one a shorter route. So that would be one possibility. I can bring maps next time if you want to. I can show you what it may look like.
I'd be curious to see.
Yeah. I'm not the decider.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm just an advisor on.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they, because I'm not familiar with the food one.
Yeah.
I've only been in town for
Yeah.
7 years.
There are beautiful homes
Yeah.
On Main Street.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, I
Yeah.
certainly see them, but yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love to have
Yeah.
a document to be able to.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be great.
With names of original owners
Yeah,
and just a little bit. I want them to have a little bit about the owners that were there,
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know if this was a blacksmith and out back he had a shop, that's
Yeah.
just kind of fun.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And,
One spot that's gonna be tough with that walking tour is down at the point.
Yeah.
When you come back up, I think it's the Stacy House, is that the one? right
Stacy
below
House, yeah,
Stacy?
the big white house.
There's no sidewalk.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very,
That's a tricky.
very
spot.
Yeah.
tough spot.
It is a
but,
tough spot.
uh,
It's hard. I don't know how we're gonna work that out. We were hoping, Ben Tambashi and I were hoping that we could cross the street, go down 3A, take a left at the Verizon building and take a look at the Seaver House, which is fantastic. That's I think the most beautiful home in town. And certainly one of the most historic, and then walk back up, and if only there was a crosswalk.
Mhm.
Because the only way you can get across is go down to the river,
Mhm.
and that makes for a long walk.
Yeah.
In the summertime, it would just be beastly long.
Mhm.
But I don't know. So we'll work on it. But I think it would be nice for people to take a look at the fireman's memorial down there in front of the Stacy House, which is quite nice. Lil gave me copies of all the old pictures of the dedication. Really quite a ceremony.
Mhm.
And you're in it, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, holding a flag or doing something. Yeah.
I know at the end of Landing Road, the state is supposedly doing a crosswalk there. And so, along Main Street, where Landing Road comes
Yeah.
out, and possibly part of that, this is a state project. Maybe they're gonna do something up at Reed Street, not Reed Street, I'm sorry, Linden Street in that area.
That would
as
be-
part
that
of That'd be nice if they did it.
It would be
Even
nice.
for the-
By the way, I forgot to tell you that they're going to try to do for the 300th a house tour, historic house tours. It would not be like a decorating and things of that nature. It would be just people that have lovely antique homes. And your home was mentioned. One of the problems that they saw was parking. Even if we could convince you to do it, where are people going to park in order to come down and see your home? And I mentioned how wonderful it is.
Yeah, our neighborhood is a nightmare, but
Yeah, it is.
trying to pull off the road.
Sure.
is really tough.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Civil War grave update. Do we know any more about the Civil War grave?
So, um, we had discussed the funding and the proposals we got back. Daedalus was high, so I think we kind of discussed possibly not going with them. But then the commission had a question for the other one, the New England Gravestone Services, about the pins that they use and how they preserve stuff. So I did reach out to him and I asked, he does not use stainless steel pins and he doesn't really use any pins because he feels he could damage the stones by drilling into them. He just uses an epoxy, and it's Akamai Akapoxy is the brand that he uses. He says he's been using it for 20 years. So that's what he would use to reset the stones, and then also the box tubes to repair those on top.
Is that the out of state?
That's the one from New Hampshire, yes.
I was a little concerned about that the price was just so low
Yes,
and that it was out of state. Those two things I have as a concern. And I know we want to be as economically as possible, obviously.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
the other two were closer in price. And I know several of you have seen the work of Colonial at the other cemetery.
Yeah.
And so,
Now, the colonial work was, I
and
think it was
they're
very
under
good.
budget as well.
Yeah,
Do the other two, do you know, do they have a significant difference in how they would do the work, or?
They all use different products.
Yeah.
The one that Colonial, they actually do use pins, but they use composite like materials they use on the space station and rockets and stuff. They find that those don't deteriorate, and they also don't. The stainless steel can eat away at the marble, and a lot of these veteran stones are the marble, so they don't affect that as much. And then they also, he was going to dig down on those box tombs. So there's a layer below it that actually is a domed thing. He's gonna dig down to that and rebuild it from there instead of just rebuilding it on top like some of our past ones have been repaired. I don't know if we want to decide who to go with tonight, or,
I would prefer to wait for Craig. Don't
okay,
you think it's a good idea?
we could do that. We can have a full committee, sure.
Right, I think it'd be a good idea to wait.
Okay.
We'll do that then.
I think on behalf of Colonial, that I think they did do a great job.
They do a great job, yeah.
They did a very good job. And I think there's something to be said for staying local or accountability. If we did have a problem with
Yeah.
something, they're local.
Absolutely.
You know, and
And we're employing local people too,
Yeah.
you know, so.
And like I said, you guys
And
saw
take
that,
to Facebook and make sure they never have a good day again.
and I saw their work in Burial Hill. They were repairing very similar H stones, the marble stones, and I thought their work was really good.
Yeah. Okay, next, the update on the 300th book project.
Tom, you want to start?
You're the master of the book project. What do you mean? Well, I think things are going very, very well. We've hired a designer, and we have our editors, and we have our plans are all laid out for getting ourselves to a position where we can start doing a lot more fundraising. We've had a little bit of good luck on fundraising without really even starting an official fundraising project, which will begin hopefully, I think, in June. And so we'll be going out to businesses, and I also am a fan of doing a mailing, reaching out to people that we know may have an interest in the history of the town. And so we'll see how we do. It will be an expensive thing to do, but we want to create for the 300th a quality book. Not somebody came up to me and said, well, you can go to Amazon and they can make a book for you for about, $20 a book or something like that. No, I've seen those and they're not very nice. So we want something that's going to be really quite beautiful, that the town can be proud of and that people will want to buy. We're hoping to have something on the market by the fall of 2025. So that would be hopefully just before Christmas. And that will be kind of almost like a kickoff for the 300 people have this book. And so that's work as hard as we can. And fortunately, we have Ken, who knows a great deal about publishing, and he just knows how things work. And of course, he is also working extremely hard on this.
We all are.
Oh, but you are. You're doing a lot of the business work, and so we rely actually on his judgment in many of these things. And we have Jim Farrell, who's working as an editor, and he's got a lot of savvy too.
Yeah.
So I think we're.
Boy, this is a
Name from the past.
Yeah, I haven't seen him and I can't remember.
Oh, he's the same as he was many years ago.
He
He's.
lived up on Lake Street, didn't he? Just.
Yeah.
Still.
Oh, yeah.
Right below 4.
Oh, yeah. He's tuned into everything we're doing. He's seems to give wonderful advice to me and to the group. So, and I feel very good about his presence at our meetings. And Jan Rita Boney, who just, as I said, she's a historian of the town, a lot of good judgment there. And it's amazing how she works. Amazing. She's just focused in there and has the kind of focus of a person who is 50 years younger than she is.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking either. No, we meet at her house too. It's a beautiful spot. So that's about, any questions about the book at all?
I was gonna say both John for the 300 and the book, one thing maybe to consider if you're doing a mailing, townwide mailing. The tax collector was very helpful with the Veterans Memorial Group when they were trying to raise funds and sent out a letter that Kim included a letter or a mailing in with the tax bill. So it went to every house, and there was no charge other than the cost of printing what you wanted printed out,
Yeah.
but no mailing costs there.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah, it goes to every house.
What we're going to try to do is to create kind of like a mock-up of what the cover will look like and maybe a short sidebar article to give people an idea of the kind of thing to expect. And so our designer will be working on that right off the bat.
And one of the things that you could do in conjunction with that is I don't know if you have thought about setting up a pre-order where people could put a deposit, because that will, one, help you at least know initially how many to order, but two, it also creates some cash for you to kind of use along the way for expenses. So it's kind of, if for example, you've gotten advice that the book's going to cost, $45, you could ask people for, a $10 deposit or something.
And we have discussed that. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely thinking of pre-orders, we need the mechanism to develop to do that, but that's down the road. That, I would just make one appeal to everybody here. This dovetails with, we have a great professional photographer, Ed Newt, joining us and re-enthused an idea or his idea of like, we want to show people in their environment at work, with different trades, craftsmen, artisan, just tradespeople, and whether they're traditional skills or not. If you know anybody who does, like I have a friend who turns bowls, with a lathe, and I don't even know I know nothing about lathes, but he produces these great bowls from different wood. He's part of our group, so I got to ask him, hey, is that some? I don't want to pressure him, but so it's a way we hope to engage people in the book and in the celebration of the town and all the things, the history is, is what it is. And we're finding some new sources and compelling stories about people and, and events, but also celebrate what people are doing today, what they've been doing for the last 100 years. And, there's a duck decoy maker. Apparently, we have his name,
Oh, yeah.
That's a tradition. There was a famous decoy
Very
maker.
famous.
So things like that, whether they carry on. So if you know anybody, that's love to hear suggestions or pass it on.
Yeah. Well, it could be, what would be considered normal, ordinary, tasks, such as being an EMT, not that that's ordinary. But I mean, it's something that we all know about. But it is extraordinarily important. And, so that may be interesting just to go in and, I don't know, interview somebody or take some pictures and, I don't know. And obviously we can't follow you to the site of an accident or something. That wouldn't be terribly appropriate, but, there
It'd
are
be kind
people.
of fun to do some of the businesses around town that are, really significant. Like pop into the Charlie Horse and take a picture of like the wait staff and the bartenders who are there, or, I don't know, the guy at the counter at the mobile, like the people at the post office. I guess like the places that people tend to go all the time. Um,
Absolutely, yeah. Well,
and
we already have a
someday they
very,
won't be there.
we have a very nice article by, Dr. Russo at the Animal, Hospital, and, and about his family and their dedication to, taking care of the town's pets and animals, for decades and decades.
Mhm.
So you're absolutely right. I agree, Lynn. Okay, let's see, anything else about the book that you wish
Thanks,
to?
Tom.
Okay,
Thanks, everybody.
and update on the 300th anniversary.
So we didn't have a meeting last month. Our next meeting is next week. But in the process, we have started creating some working groups, including the one for the walking tour that you're on.
Right,
I'm starting to get volunteers for the parade walking group, working group. And then I'm also in the process right now of contacting, some of the, older museums and, different groups around for the pilgrims. So Pilgrim Hall Museum, Pilgrim Society, to see if there's any interest in them participating in the 300th anniversary, because we were a part of Plymouth for 100 years before we did become our own town.
absolutely.
So-
Ms. Curtin, she's wonderful, and she knows everything about the archive they have. You may be surprised what she comes out with.
Hopefully she does have some material and they can do coming up to that year, do a side
Sure.
exhibit.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and have the exhibit, maybe also here in town.
Yep.
So that people could come and see it.
Yes.
I think that'd be very, very important, you know.
And if anybody does watch this, we are still looking for members for the committee, or some of our working groups we're gonna have, we'll be looking for volunteers for that as well.
Oh, yeah, oh, absolutely, as we get up to it, you will need volunteers, I'm sure. To do special things, and I mean, you could also reach out to people if there are things you're looking for too. I know that, the book committee, we have lots of contacts with a lot of people who have helped us out quite a bit, and so we certainly could share some of our resources with you, you know. Okay, that is the end of our agenda for today. I have some additional stuff I'd like to talk about. Does anybody else have anything they wish to present?
I think I did, no?
Okay, first of all, markers in the old burying ground. I don't know if any of you have gone in there, but the winter and the wind and the storms have really, I don't know how these markers get knocked down or bent over, but they have to be put up. So when the weather gets a little bit better, I'm gonna go in there and just kind of straighten them out. And I'll do an inventory of how many flags we need. I'll go down to the veterans office. We've always been very
You'll
generous.
be, putting flags out the third or fourth weekend in of May, for
Good.
Memorial Day, so those will be done.
Good, so I'll have
But
the
I have,
markers.
I
I'll
have
the
some
mar-
markers.
Yeah.
I don't have a big amount, but I have some markers, so if you are missing any, let me know.
I will,
And I
I
can
will,
use them.
that's good,
Yep.
good. So I'll get those up. The next thing, if anybody has any contact with scouts, the old burying ground is a mess with branches, small branches, mostly. I don't think there are many large branches. It is horrible, and also we need a little trimming here and there. You know, a low branch needs to be taken down, and I'll be glad to go up on a Saturday with the scouts and the leader to help out and to supervise, and maybe others from our committee will do that, just to kind of, you know, cheer them on and everything. And so if you have any contact,
I do still speak with the leader, so I can talk to them and see if
that's
there's
super,
any interest. Yep.
super.
How does that work with the streets, trees and parks as far as where does the line get drawn and who does what in the old burial ground for maintaining it?
Oh, we mean with Mr. Basler? Yeah, well, when I find out that there's going to be scouts coming up there, I contact Mr. Basler, or I make sure that the scouts contact Mr. Basler. They're fine, and there's an area where we put the brush, and they bring their truck in, and they turn it around, and they take the brush and they put it in the back of the truck, and so it really works out very well. They don't cut the grass. For the most part, the highway department does the grass clipping and the cutting, and they do a pretty good job. Weed whacking, right? Yeah, they do a pretty good job. And so I don't think they have a problem, and they know that one of us or two of us will be there kind of watching what's going on. And so there's no horsing around. You know. And you give them the speech, be careful with the footstones, no leaning on the stones or sitting on the stones. And the kids are very good. Scouts are great. They really are. They're a good group. And their parents are there very often too. So it's a community thing. Really, it works very well. But I'll let you know, and maybe you can let me know if there's going to be a date. Now, the next thing I want to talk about will be very brief. Years ago, I think it was 2007, the town took land that belonged to First Parish Church, and in exchange for money for the church to put on a new roof or something, and a few other things. The green, the land that goes under the townhouse, and the burying ground went back to the town. And they owned it. Then they decided to sell the townhouse. And of course, the townhouse now has a new owner. And there, like any home, there are boundaries around the townhouse. And there is a little bit of a problem. And I just want to kind of show you where the problem is. Now, okay, here's the townhouse. Here's First Parish Church. Okay, there is a wall, a stone wall between the old burying ground, which is over here, and the green. This is the green, and you come to the townhouse. Now the wall comes up here, and the boundary just kicks over a little bit and goes parallel to the wall, parallel to the west side of the townhouse, and comes right up there to the access road. Now there's an easement that allows us to go over their property right into the old burying ground, and it goes up here to a veteran area. There are veteran graves up here. Okay, so and it comes here, and it's like a little stone marker or something, and it takes a little bit of a right and comes up there and across the and then there's again there are little granite things here. It's almost like a I forget whether it's chains between these little granite columns, but and you take a right here, and the boundary is right along this is a garage, but it's called the Hearst House.
Mhm.
It goes right up to the Hearst House and it comes straight over here. Then it hits that way. You'd have to measure it out. The problem is that there is at least one grave right up against the garage. And all this land in here belongs to the town and it's part of the old burying ground. And for all I know, there may be other unmarked graves. I'm sure there are unmarked graves in the old burying ground, you know. The family that owns here has stored a lot of material here. Right now they have lawn chairs put in a circle right there. They have some kind of a device here, like a stove where they can put in wood and have a little fire at night. There's a tree over here on old burying ground property where they put lights up into the tree. So in effect, they're putting decorative lights over a cemetery. I don't think they realize it.
These are the new
These are the
owners that
new
put all
owners.
their stuff
I don't
in.
think they realize it. If they knew it, I don't think anybody, I think they'd be very horrified if they knew that,
Yeah.
that they were setting up a place here. So, I think we'll have to wait for Craig, but I just wanted to show it to all of you guys.
And they own this.
They
garage
own the
here?
garage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You see the dark
Yeah,
marker?
yeah, that's
The
the
dark
lot
mark
continues
is
down to the
is
road.
the boundaries of what they own.
Yeah.
And it comes right up
Yeah.
against it, which is kind of unfortunate the way it was done, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it was done that way because there is
There's
a grave
pre-existing
right
stuff
up there.
Yeah.
And they had stuff right on top of the grave.
Yeah.
You know, and.
And I could see that, you know, they might just think, yeah, this comes
Of course
straight
they
down
think
here and.
It's
yeah,
common sense,
Yeah.
but the way,
Yeah.
and they may not even have one of these, or
Yeah.
maybe they just never thought of it.
Yeah.
Tom, the area in back of the Hearst house and to
Yeah.
the front, out towards Green Street.
Right
That
there.
area there, who owns that property
It's
there?
theirs. I showed it to John.
Right where your
last night.
finger is,
Yes,
that is.
that
their
is
property?
theirs,
This
yeah.
is all-
You see, it goes here,
Yeah.
it goes like right there,
Yeah.
and then it goes down that way.
Yeah.
Now, I showed it to John last night because there have been complaints about, or concerns from,
Storing
trustees.
stuff in back of.
Trustees
Yeah.
about stuff back here. They have, you know, like, I forget, it's like a baby
Kids'
carriage or
toys.
something, there's stuff,
Yeah.
you know, back there. It's a little bit homely. I mean, I mentioned to John that he could perhaps approach the people or send a letter saying that, you know, we noticed that behind your garage on your property that you have stored some things that, so as, you know, it's a little bit untidy, and unsightly for those who are entering the cemetery grounds. And they may say, oh, geez, so we didn't think about it. They may put the stuff in the garage. But on the other hand, they have to build a fence, you know, some kind of a stockade fence or something, perhaps, I don't know. That would be up to everybody to decide what they can do.
Perhaps when Craig is back, just to go over and have, you know, let them
Sure.
know, show them this
Yeah.
and gently. But,
Right.
You know.
Right.
And then all of this is all town owned.
This is all town owned. It goes down here. This is Evergreen.
Yeah.
Evergreen Cemetery's over here.
Yeah.
And it goes, and there's a
Yeah.
fence, there's a wire fence that goes all the way along here.
Yeah.
And there's a chain, well, there's like an opening here for a car to go in, a little opening there, I think also, in case somebody has to move something.
Yeah.
But then there's a fence, now there's a chain link goes all the way down
Yeah.
here, and there's the stone wall, oh, actually, no, the stone,
Granite
there's
wall.
a stone, granite wall, yeah, okay,
wall.
granite wall goes up there, and this is where the church would be.
Yeah.
First
The
paragraph.
tombs are actually right here, right on the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're-
But
they're-
They're not on the private property.
Right, they're not
Yes.
on private property and they're not on Evergreen
Okay.
property. The tombs are part of the old burying ground.
And Tom, you mentioned, obviously the stone up against the garage, which
Yeah.
you talked about several times in that area where there might be unmarked graves. When Professor Zimmerman was last back and did the ground penetrating radar, excuse me. Wasn't that around this area? And we don't,
Yeah.
do we ever know what they found?
I don't think we've gotten it back yet.
We never
Or he
get
did
it.
do the hill thinking that maybe,
Yeah.
either slave or pauper burials there.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if that was generally the area, I believe,
Yes.
correct me,
Right
Yeah.
there.
maybe it's worth checking up if he can come back, see if there's anything.
See what there is up here.
Yeah.
There is one flat stone right there, right up against that fence. Matter of fact, I think the name is Brown, George Brown or Charles Brown or something like that. It's a flat gray, yeah. But you're right, that's kind of empty, at least it appears to be empty, but I mean, sometimes it is bury people, you know? And, oh, by the way, this is a hill that comes down here. And then the Evergreen owns this part of the thing. We now, oh, by the way, now we have a groundskeeper, a person who will take care of the burials. And he's has a company, and Brad. And,
Brad Colton.
yeah, is a wonderful fellow, and he knows what he's doing, and so Evergreen will be well cared for by him. That was decided last night. So just thought you'd like to see that, and
No, that's interesting. It's, and I know Craig had mentioned in the past, we don't want to alienate these people because we may need their support to get out there, but on the other hand, like you say, the graves need to be,
it's respect. It's an issue
respected.
of respect.
and
Yeah.
the adverse possession could become a
Yes.
problem
Yes.
as well if they,
Right.
I don't know how many years if they put stuff on there, but then they have the right to the property. if they're
Absolutely,
using it.
yeah, that would be terrible if that happened. But
5 years,
yeah, my wife.
5 years?
5 years.
All right, so they've already been there a couple of years, so. But anyhow, regarding the access easement, I mean, we have access, period. To town property, so I don't see what they can, you know, I mean, they know that.
Yeah.
And actually, they mentioned that to me. They told me that they would not make sure that there was no car park there, because they know that there's an easement. You know, and they have been very good about that. I met them once, and they're very nice. They seem to be very nice people. So I'm certain that they just don't know. I think it's exactly what you're saying. They don't know. It just seems like it'll be a straight line.
Yeah, particularly when you got a wall coming down here. I don't know, just your, you know, human
Excuse
nature.
me, you might be cooking your outdoor pizza with dead people.
Yeah,
So who could communicate that to them?
I think Craig. I recommended to Craig that we should just go over and just talk.
Yeah.
Instead of a letter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
talk and show them
Yeah.
this and say, maybe you weren't aware, but
Yeah.
this is it. Oh, by the way, this little area here, you see how they own a little bit of property in there, up against their house. And that's where their air conditioners are. They have a few air conditioners, but again, there are graves that are really close, you know, really close to the house. Not right up though, not like this one. This grave is a few inches away from the Hearst house. All right, so thank you for looking at that.
So I don't really have anything important, but I have a fun fact. I'm not sure if you know Joe Manganiello. He's like a TV host. He's done like some of the Big Brothers and different things, but they did a Finding Your Roots on him. And it turns out they traced his roots back to the Parting Ways settlement. And
wow.
yeah, and the gentleman who lived there, and his name is just flown out of my brain. Tom, I think you talked about him a lot. He fought in the Revolutionary War.
Oh,
Cato,
Cuff Stevens? No,
Was a former slave.
probably Cuff Stevens.
Well, no, from Parting Ways.
Parting
Oh, from
Ways.
Parting
Parting
Ways.
Yes.
Cato or Howe.
Yes, Quash,
Hominy Quash.
yeah, right.
Was one, but I think I'm not sure. I think it was a Howe who fought in the war.
Yeah,
Well, his wife was Rachel, I guess, and there was some question because, but she was an immigrant and they lived in the house and they traced it sort of all the way back. So I just thought it was really interesting that, he's from like New York and just a TV host, and it turns out that he can trace his history back to the corner of Route 80. It was really
really
like when it
cool.
happened, I was like, whoa, no way.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, it's very interesting.
Lynn, excuse me, do you mind sending Tom or I just like a little blurb? Maybe we could quickly, I don't know, I'm thinking book, like, here's a descendant of
Oh, yeah.
Parting Ways Road, or Parting Ways Settlement, New Guinea, they called it, the other way. That might be, just a little, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
Whole thing.
actually even go on to the PBS website and watch it. So I'll send an email around with his name and a link. And if you want to kind of watch his 15 minutes or whatever, it was just really interesting.
Thank you.
Well, thanks. That is very interesting. And part of that Parting Ways was on Kingston land, actually, believe it or not. So,
So actually, the majority of it is,
Really?
So the plantation did an archaeological survey, I think in the seventies, and it ended up getting put on the National Register. And then the town of Plymouth transferred the National Register to us, so we actually have.
oh, no kidding.
Yes.
Well, no, I love, that's interesting. That's very.
Plato Turner,
Turner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Turner.
that's who it was. Plato Turner and his wife Rachel are his, I think, 4 times great grandparents.
Yeah. I believe that one of Cuff Stevens' children married one of the people from Parting Ways. But I'll investigate that. I'll take a look at the genealogies. I have. He is the only slave that I have any genealogical data on, or even know who his wives are, from the old time. All right. Are there any other issues to discuss at the meeting tonight? And is there a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Fine.
Aye.
I
Thank you, Lynn.